From the courts of America dealing with international terrorism to the courts of public opinion following a man who always seems to have his hand out and then puts it quickly back into his pocket when it's been filled. And a pair of high-profile trials still capturing national attention. All rise, let's get to work. Welcome back from the law offices of O'Brien and Ryan, LLP in Philadelphia. Heather Hansen joins us. All right, Heather, good to see you again without having to slog through the snow this time, all right?
Great to see you, Ed. Yeah, it's a little cold, but no snow.
So much easier. There you go. Let's go ahead and start right out with Al Sharpton. What do you say? Our good old buddy is back in the news once again. But this is interesting right now because apparently he, Comcast, Time Warner being sued by a group, and again, we spoke to somebody earlier who's in Los Angeles who says, I don't even know who this group is. The National Association of African American Owned Media for Discrimination. Can you kind of put this into a little bubble of common sense here, what this is all about?
Well, that group is sort of an umbrella over another entity that is claiming that they have tried to sell different shows or channels to Comcast and Time Warner and have been unable to actually sell them because Comcast and Time Warner are engaging in racial discrimination. Where Al Sharpton comes in is they're saying that he was sort of paid off in order, or conspired, I should say, in order to discriminate against them by saying that he would come forward and say, look at me, I'm on these channels, I actually show that they are racially diverse, and therefore there isn't any sort of discrimination going on here. The lawsuit is long, it's a 72-page complaint, and really what it comes down to is these allegations of racial discrimination with Al Sharpton and other entities, including his network, serving as covers for the discrimination.
Now, the Africa channel is the single channel carried by the companies that is black-owned. That's part of the whole racial discrimination issue here from the company. And the company came out, or the group came out and said, well, Al Sharpton gets lousy ratings, yet you, Comcast, NBC, you still keep him on the air. This just seems like this is nearly impossible to prove, though, when you come down to companies that are saying we need to make money, there's got to be sponsors involved, there's got to be ratings, and we're not in this, and you'll hear this from a lot of them, we're not in this to be socially responsible, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we're in this to make money, right?
You are 100% right, and you're going to see that from Comcast. You're going to see all kinds of arguments about ratings and selling ads and that type of thing to say that the types of networking that you're providing for us or offering to us is just not what we want. And so this wasn't a racial decision, this was purely a business decision, and we're allowed to make business decisions.
And you're also allowed to put somebody like Al Sharpton into the lawsuit because if you put a high-profile name in there, really helps you sell the lawsuit and get national attention, right?
No doubt about it. I mean, as soon as those names are included, you're getting all kinds of coverage, and that may make the case settle a little more quickly.
Ah, there it is. It's all about the settling. Couple of minutes we got it before we take a break. The Palestine Authority and the PLO found liable on Monday by a jury in Manhattan for their role in knowingly supporting 6 terrorist attacks in which Americans were killed and injured. Heather, I got to tell you, there's most people who would probably not even know that this kind of a lawsuit was being, or this kind of a trial was being held here in America. $218 million in a jury award. What does this mean as far as being able to actually make them pay or make them knuckle under a judge's decision? Seems pretty tough.
Collecting on those assets is going to be very difficult. Israel is 100% on board on helping the Americans who won this case do so. The plaintiffs' attorneys are saying that they're going to uncover every rock to find this money. And, most money does have to go through the U.S. in some way. Whether they will actually collect, because what happens this lawsuit was brought under a law that was passed in the 1990s. And that 200 and somewhat million is tripled under that law. So we're talking over $600 million. That whole amount is not going to be recovered. But even if a fraction of it is recovered, you're talking about a lot of money here.
Are we going to see more cases like this, or are there more cases like this currently already in works?
A similar case just within the last 6 months in Brooklyn, which seems to be the hotbed of this type of litigation. A similar case where they actually found an Arab bank had helped to fund terrorism, and the jury awarded for the plaintiffs. And that one, they haven't yet, they split the damages part of that case, so they haven't yet awarded a number. But I think that once you see, just like anything else, Ed, once you see plaintiffs' attorneys successful in these types of cases, you're going to see a lot more plaintiffs' attorneys running to join the fun.
And you brought up that it is trebled, and that's a $655.5 million judgment under the special terrorism law in which the case was brought. We can wish them a lot of luck. I think it's going to be awful tough to find anybody in the PLO where they'll actually hand over the money or actually find the cash, if you will. Heather, stand by for just a couple minutes here. Let's go ahead and take a break because there are two trials still going on here in America that everybody is watching, and weather has had an effect on both of them. Courtrooms from Massachusetts to Texas being watched. Two high-profile trials continue, the Boston bomber and the American sniper. We'll get updates on those and much more when we continue right here on MidPoint. Back to work with our legal analyst from the offices of O'Brien and Ryan in Philadelphia. Heather Hansen joins us. Heather, let's go ahead and get to the trials, if you will, that has everybody looking right now. And of course, a lot of weather and a lot of things that have happened have basically bogged things down a little bit. Where are we right now? Let's go ahead and first take the Chris Kyle American sniper trial, because last word we heard was that they were close to basically getting to a decision. Where are we now?
They are close. I anticipate they'll either hear closings this afternoon or tomorrow morning. What was interesting as a lawyer in this case is that the prosecution put forward their case, the defense then put forward their case. The prosecution called rebuttal witnesses. We don't often see that. And they called some psychiatrists, and today they're calling some more ammunition and gun experts to talk about how everything, the chronology of what happened that day. After that, I anticipate that you'll hear closings.
From what you have gathered thus far, and again, you haven't heard every single second and every single word, but from what you're gathering, have they been able, the prosecution, been able to prove that that Eddie Ray Ralph is not insane?
You know, it's going to come down to a battle of the experts. They called two experts in rebuttal, which I think was a really smart thing because you want to sort of leave the jury with that idea. But those experts were well cross-examined as well. You know, Ed, I think so much of it's going to come down to the jury's sympathy and understanding of PTSD. You've got 10 women and 2 men on the jury. We saw with the Andrea Yates trial after the whole thing about postpartum depression that actually she was found to be not guilty for reason of insanity. I do think it's a possibility here as well.
All right, let's turn to the Aaron Hernandez trial that apparently, from what I'm reading, the defense team has had a difficult time because there's emails and text messages and conversations back and forth, and it really is getting a little confusing.
It's getting enormously confusing, and there's all kinds of, it's almost like they're drowning in evidence. There's text messages, there's emails, there's video evidence, and so it is going to be a long trial, and it's going to be really important in that case for the attorneys to be able to really tie it up in a neat little package at the end with their closings, because it's all over the place.
Do you agree with those who say that a lot of the text messages between the victim, the girlfriend, Aaron Hernandez, that they are inadmissible because they're considered hearsay?
Yes, they are inadmissible, and it's you know, a lot of it is irrelevant, and that's why it's inadmissible to the issues at hand. You know, there's so much circumstantial evidence here, and we always say that circumstantial evidence is still evidence, but there's not a whole lot directly on point that we've heard so far. I'm eager to hear whether or not some of these witnesses who have immunity are going to testify. That may be a game changer.
All right, about 90 seconds left here. A New Jersey judge found that Christie violated state law when he declined to place the full payment into a state pension. Is this a heavy-handed issue, or is this just something that, oh, we've forgotten, we can take care of it? What's the legalese here?
You know, it's an interesting thing because the judge really gave Chris Christie a little bit of a pushback here. I think he was quite sure that he was going to win on this, but the pension, you know, these people have paid into the pension, and so this judge said that they have a contractual and a constitutional right to that money. I'm not sure where the state's going to come up with the money that they have to now pay. I know that Governor Christie has said that he is definitely going to appeal this and feels very strongly that since the legislature passed the bill that allowed them to do this, that they have that right.
Is this, you think, going to be something that, because already Chris Christie's had a tremendous amount of problems here, he's getting a lot of negative publicity right here. Is this a derailment, or is this just a quick stop on the road to a potential White House bid, in your opinion?
You know, if he were a more important player right now, people would be all over it, I think, because it really goes to the issues of his budgeting. It goes towards his ability to work with the other side of the aisle. All of those things went into this, which a judge has now struck down. I think that it shows that he's not a major player, the fact that people are not talking about this more.
I think you may have just said something that the Chris Christie campaign did not exactly want to hear, that they are not considered a major player, because I'll tell you, I guarantee you that Chris Christie's a guy who still thinks he's a major player in all this, and he does not need us in the media to hammer away at him anymore. Yet we do, only because it's the fact.
I know.
Heather, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch up with you again and check the legal boards next week.
Thanks, Ed. Take care.
All right, take care. And we'll also keep up on what's happening with those two trials. Again, the American Sniper trial may be coming to a head very soon with the jury. We'll let you know. News will cover it as well. All right, we'll take a break, come back. We'll close out the Tuesday or the Wednesday Eve edition with proof why the audience here at MidPoint is the most intelligent anywhere. Telling it like it is next.